is the Vintage RPG Podcast, your source for the best in classic and contemporary RPGs. With your hosts, Hambone and Stu.
Welcome to the Vintage RPG Podcast, coming at you again from the clubhouse in somewhere in the swamps of New Jersey. I'm John Hambone McGuire, and with me, as always, is the founder and publisher of Unwinnable. I got no jokes today, so we're just going to go with it. Stu Horvath.
Hello. I almost went nurse, but hello, Hambone.
How's it going, buddy?
I'm very tired.
Didn't get no sleep last night?
It's a combination of two things. One, it was unseasonably warm for 2 days here.
Holy shit, I know.
And whenever it happens, that zaps me. I guess it's three things. It zaps me to begin with, but then also it's daylight savings, which also zaps me.
Yeah, like for a whole last week.
And then I had a whole bunch of my windows replaced, so I had to move furniture for 2 days. So like I am legit, like it's like a Geek Flea level of fatigue.
Oh shit, yeah, that'll do it.
But
oh my god, so you did it right before the rain.
Yeah, no, it was perfect. Like they finished yesterday before it started raining. It was great. And my god, so I have this bay window that's on the front of the house. I think I was in second or third grade when it was put in, so like 40 years old. And like 2 years ago, on New Year's Day of all days, I was sort of like I was like, man, that window just looks like dirty, and like it was hard to. You have to wash it from the outside. You can't wash it from the inside. So like the windows never got clean. So I went out there on New Year's Day. It was a new day, and I was like, I'm going to clean these windows. And I cleaned the windows and they didn't come clean. And I was like, what happened here? And I realized that because they're 40 years old, they were etched with 40 years worth of acid rain. So there was a slight fog to the window.
Yeah.
And now I have a new bay window. Took them a little bit of doing to get it in, but it is beautiful. Every time I walk by, I stop because it looks so clear. It doesn't seem real, because I'm so used to the acid etched window. This new clear window that I can actually see through, like it literally stops me dead every time I walk through the room.
Let's see how much brighter is your living room now.
It's pretty bright. It's really nice.
Oh my god.
So that's been my last couple days. And I'm a fatigued.
Yeah, I mean that'll do it. So I figured today we'll just do a little potpourri.
Yeah, so I got like a couple intertwined things. First off, John Power over at Weird Science sent me the PDF proof of my article about bunnies and burrows. I don't know what I was expecting it to look like, but I wasn't expecting it to look like it looks, and I was pleasantly surprised. It's very cute. And you should check that out. That's the new issue of Weird Science. I don't know when it's coming out, but it is hitting print Saturday, I think.
All right.
It'll be available soon. And I have a nice interview with Scott Robinson, designer of Bunnies and Burrows, sort of celebrating their 50th anniversary.
Oh my god, yeah.
So yeah, so rabbits. But John also figures in the second thing that I want to mention. He posted yesterday on the old Blue Sky about this article from, what is it? Puzzles and Games magazine, August 1975. So this is oh wow, it's on the cover even. It's a magazine about games, and like,
all right.
But this is like a time before games got like weird. So like it's literally like the cover is the big new feature is chess for everyone. And then it's like crosswords, cards, backgammon, diplomacy, Go, word puzzles, mathematical puzzles, competitions. Like it's sort of like to me, what I think of as a much smaller game world supporting this magazine, which is I think is pretty funny. But they have a feature by Tony Bath on fantasy gaming, which was fairly new at the time. Not entirely new, because fantasy wargaming had been a thing.
Right.
But there's only a single mention of Dungeons and Dragons in the whole 4-page feature. I'll read that line. Undoubtedly, the best set of rules produced commercially to date is Dungeons and Dragons, an American production, which has been greeted with enthusiasm on both sides of the Atlantic.
All right. That's funny.
I guess the whole paragraph is about Dungeons and Dragons. These rules endeavor to lay down a solid basis for true fantasy games with considerable success. However, as their authors would be the first to admit, there's still a lot to do in this genre. In my opinion, fantasy gaming must first be split into general sections as follows. And then he proceeds to sort of go over like all the different ways that he thinks that fantasy gaming can be developed. And it's a super interesting article just in the context of being on the ground in 1975. Dungeons and Dragons is barely a year old, and sort of I look at things. I mean, even by the time I was aware of Dungeons and Dragons, let alone born,
Right.
D&D was established as like the game. It was the first one. It got out there first, and it never really lost its lead. But and I've always sort of, you always see it that way. Like we talk about it that way. Even in my book, where I'm fairly critical of Dungeons and Dragons and its role over in the overall hobby, I still position it naturally as the one, right? But in 1975, it wasn't the one. It had only been out for a year. Nobody knew how things were going to develop, and there was all this different potential in the air. And it's interesting to kind of see it characterized that way, and to see already the different directions that people wanted to go in with just the idea of the intersection of fantasy and games. So on that level, the article is super interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, like, there was like a time before, when it was like, oh, like this. I don't know if it's going to take. I don't know if this is going to be a thing, but it's pretty cool. Like
In history, it's like things happened and it feels like they've always happened. But in truth, it's much blurrier on the ground as it's happening, which we know. We've lived through some crazy stuff in the just this century, like not even going back into the 80s and 90s. Like we have experienced events that there's lots of different perspectives while they're going on, and then we sort of decide what the consensus is after the fact. And the outlying stuff, it doesn't disappear, but it becomes less common, and we how much. And I don't want it to sound like I'm saying that like, oh, we censor history. Like it's just literally like our brains can only handle so much information, so that we eventually pare things down to essentials that we can manage, and then real detailed historians go into stuff and really drag out the detail. Like John Peterson's books are great,
yeah,
but I can't hold that stuff in my brain, and I don't want to hold that stuff in my brain.
Right.
I want it to be in John's books. So
for serious.
So and like it's great that stuff is out there, but it's interesting how the perspectives change is basically what I'm coming down. But that's not the reason I want to talk about this article.
Tell me.
I have had a long-standing theory. I've mentioned it here and there, but I don't think it's in Monsters, Aliens, and Holes of the Ground necessarily. It's definitely showed up in posts, and I think maybe I've mentioned it on the podcast. But it's one of those theories where like I feel like it's true, but I can't substantiate it in any kind of like meaningful way. I think that war games and early Dungeons and Dragons and any game that has a extremely complicated system, I think one of the main factors in making your game complex, especially if you're trying to simulate things, I think one of the main motivators when folks designed those systems, especially in the early days, was to compensate for the fact that they were working on what they felt was seen as childish games.
Right.
I see it. Gygax's prose in particular, he leans on these archaic words and like this, old-fashioned kind of structure, and he's really, he's holding forth. He's really telling you like how weather works, or how his ideas about like how societies should function, because that's what his alignment system is, right?
100%. Yeah.
There's social stuff. There's like all these things and I feel like all of it, I think that there's just a little bit of it just being like, I play with toy soldiers, and you're not going to take me seriously unless I present this in like a super serious way. And I think that's, I just, in my guts, I've always felt that about complex systems of the early days in particular. And this article, which comes out in 1975, the opening paragraph, I was like, I like stood up and cheered. I was like, yeah, I found it. I found a source on the ground at the time that I can point to now that says like, people kind of have thought this since the beginning. I'm going to read it to you.
Please, in its entirety.
Magic, witchcraft, mythology. These have always had an attraction for the reading public, but only fairly recently have they been used as the basis for games rather than books and stories. No doubt there have been individuals who have experimented with this sort of thing in the past. In my early days as a wargamer, for instance, I several times dabbled with introducing a little witchcraft or magic into ancient period games. However, my regular opponent of those days, Don Featherstone, disapproved emphatically, claiming that this, quote, brought the game down to the level of a kiddies game. In those days, wargaming was struggling for recognition as a serious hobby, and Don was very conscious of the public image. Today, the news media recognize gaming as something on par with, for instance, model railways, and it is no longer necessary to be so defensive or serious about the subject. And it's just like, vindication.
Damn, yeah.
Of course, this is just, we're never going to be able to say definitively that, yeah, like everybody was like overcompensating. Gygax was like super scared of being called like, oh, look at you, maker of baby games. Like, we don't know that, but like the perception of that existed, and that makes me happy because it feels that way.
Yeah, I mean, like, you have to imagine back in the day, like that's people were very, especially older people, and granted, I wasn't around at that point in the 70s, but I know in the 80s, like there was still that very like defined line of like, what's for children, what's for adults. And like, you need to grow up and blah, blah, blah. So I can only imagine like the struggle to get people to accept that like, hey, we are adults, but we also like playing this game. That's not just for children.
Right.
And especially the first people who played it were like, except for like, I guess his kids, like adults. Like
Right.
You're working on it with people who are your peers. And so like,
yeah, well, the whole Minneapolis scene was all adults. There were no kids involved in that.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like but to the wider world, like, you're at the water cooler at work. What'd you do this weekend? Oh, I played a war game with my friend. You played a game? I was like, I mowed my lawn. Like,
Yeah. I worked on my house. I replaced my windows. It's like, yeah, that's cool. But have you rolled dice with your friends?
Yeah. It's wild. And also like, again, looping back to what I said before, it's wild to also engage with something that is on the ground floor. Like, where by the time you were old enough to see it, to want it, and to play it, like it was already fast on its way to becoming a cultural monolith.
Yeah.
And, by the time a lot of younger people now engage with it for the first time, it is the cultural monolith. It's the big one. It is the brand recognition, the eponym. Like it's, and it's so established that it's wild to go back. It's like, yeah, man, I saw them in a basement in New Brunswick. They kind of sucked, but I feel like they have potential. You know what I mean? Like you don't ever hear stuff like that.
It reminds me of the knowing that Nine Inch Nails played both the Pipeline and the Loop Lounge.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what? Like, ow! Like, those are two of the smallest, shittiest places I've ever seen bands. Like, the only shittier place was probably Connections. Like, like how did Nine Inch Nails? Like, it's hard to imagine because the first time I saw them was at Madison Square Garden for the Downward Spiral tour. So like I've never had a conception of that band as a small band.
Yeah, I mean, like, ideally, your brain probably goes to a place like, you don't imagine they played for any more than less than 2,000 people at any given time. But yeah, I mean, everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah. The other interesting thing, I love the idea of model railways being considered like a serious hobby.
Oh yeah,
because I feel like it was at a time, and there's people who take it I just don't think of model railways as a hobby so much anymore. Like it's not something that's really on my radar. But I've been engaged with Aaron Trammell's The Privilege of Play this past week. Part of my research on something I'm writing that I can't really explain yet, but I will be able to soon because I finished the proposal for it. And it's a really great book because his overarching thesis, which is that the hobby scenes have been defined in the early days by networks of privilege, which I'm going to oversimplify, but he starts with the MIT Model Railroad Club, which has like an intersection in like software development, hacker, computer, early computing stuff. But like it was also just a bunch of nerds who like model trains. And basically he charts out this idea that your basic nerd group was dependent upon a certain amount of free time, a certain amount of free money, and a certain amount of and basically being from the suburbs, which means that you were probably white, middle class, and had moved to the suburbs recently because of white flight from the cities. And you look at this, and this pattern repeats. He starts with the model train scene, and then he does diplomacy, he does war games, a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons in there, but mostly this is not about D&D. And you can see it also, like I can see it through my research in genre fiction. I can see it in Dungeons and Dragons. Certainly, it's different. There's a lot less. The barriers to entry to role playing games, it lowers the barrier to entry for war games, but it still has this idea of like it was basically white Midwestern kids who had a little bit of dough, and not even kids. It's like urban planners and shoe salesmen, and so like that. Because it was started by these folks who of particular interests, those interests were reinforced over time through the network. That's why early D&D, early role-playing games feel a certain way. Early war games sort of have this set of sort of repeating interests across many games by many companies. And it's all just very interesting. I mean, also there's a streak of libertarian conservative politics in there too. And that accounts for a lot of choices that you see in early role-playing games that have since been interrogated and revised to certain degrees. And the focus is very much in early role-playing games on individuals, even if they're working in a group. The individual is, sort of, you don't care as the player if the other guys make it out. It only matters if I make it out of the dungeon.
Right.
And so all of this stuff, there's that individual focus, and that you can see over time how that has changed. As in the 90s, once Vampire the Masquerade comes out and there's more interest in urban style games from urban players, that the pool of players diversifies. As the pool of players diversify, there's a shift in what is part of the games, and the old networks of privilege sort of lose their grip, and that shift from individualism shifts to community, which I think that we are living in an era of community focused games. And it's all just very interesting, and it all, I'm extrapolating from Aaron's work in terms of role-playing games, but I think if you read The Privilege of Play, it sort of opens your eyes to how these sort of social systems kind of have worked in largely invisible ways to shape what we think of as nerd or geek culture in these things that we love, and how they've changed and how they can continue to change more. It's a really brilliant book, and it is academic, so I can't be just like, oh, anybody can pick it up. Like, you have to pick it up with knowing that like you're going to learn something. But I do think that Aaron's style is rather welcoming as far as academic books go. So I recommend that. You should check it out.
So on the subject of books, yes, I mentioned in a previous show, I've been reading at night, and not just comic books. I started the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which I think that was like 2 weeks ago.
Yep,
I read 7 books in 2 weeks. These things are like candy, man, and I am really enjoying it. For those who are not familiar with Dungeon Crawler Carl, I'm just going to read you the description off of Google. Dungeon Crawler Carl is a popular lit RPG, which is a literary role-playing game, science fiction book series by Matt Dinneman about a man, Carl, and his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut, who are forced to compete in a deadly intergalactic reality game show after Earth is destroyed. This series blends sci-fi and fantasy with RPG elements, featuring graphic violence, dark humor, and a unique premise where the dungeon is built from Earth's resources. It's known for its extensive world building, multiple point-of-view characters, and long, detailed books, with 7 books currently published and the 8th planned for 2026, which is essentially coming out in May. So I will have I'll have this done way before the 8th book comes out. But yeah, man, I've been reading more just in general, but it's been a while since a book has kind of caught me where I was like, man, this is fun. And then I was like, You know what? Because I mean, I'm on my iPad, so I'm on the Kindle app, and I was like, you know what? The next one's $5. I'll just check it out, and then I did it, and then I was like, you know what? That third one is also $5, and the entire like series is like $5 on Kindle, or like if you have like a Kindle Unlimited, they're all free to read. But I was like, wow, I just spent like $30, and I got days worth of enjoyment reading this book, and also like. Hell yeah, Princess Donut is probably like one of my favorite characters in a work in a very, very long time. It's a talking cat who has a penchant for violence and being sassy. And I'm like, this is like, I think everything that like people who are like, man, I wish I could play a cat in D&D. Like this is what it is. A thoughtful murder hobo who will still, ask for scritches.
I have to say, you mentioned donuts, and on the WFMU marathon the other day, on Wake and Bake, Clay Pitch in the morning show, said that he was all ramped up on dones, and I've been thinking about that pretty much every other hour since then, because dones is the funniest abbreviation.
It
for a
really
food
is.
that I've ever heard.
I interrupted with Dones. Yeah. Now I
Use
want a
some dones
fucking
right
donut.
now.
Yeah, man, me too, man. Shit. Yeah, it's so funny because I had to go to the doctor the other day for my annual physical, and I was like, man, maybe I should stop at like Stuyertown Bakery and get some donuts. And I was like, you jerk. Like, you're going to get your physical. You need to get yourself together. You shouldn't be stopping to get donuts at Stuyertown. But I still almost buying a Yui and hooked it back up. I didn't, cooler heads prevailed in that situation. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking for something fun to read, that is fun. It's fun, but it also is very serious. It's one of those deceptive kind of books that, like, you come for the explosions and the sassy talk and the salty language, but like you stay for like the really intense world building and story building and all very much political commentary, just in very broad strokes, but also very finely painted as well at certain times. I really do, recommend this book. You might clutch your pearls at a couple things here and there, but for the most part, I think I believe the hype, which I don't normally try to believe. And I'm very stoked that they're doing more with it. Like, they're making an RPG about it. I don't really know anything about it, but they're also making a TV show. So I will definitely tune in for that. But yeah, Dungeon Crawler Carl, so much fun. And actually, my buddy pointed out to me, he's like, if you like Dungeon Crawler Carl, try John Dies at the End. So once I wrap up this Inevitable Rune, I'm going to check out John Dies at the End.
John Dies at the End is good. I've not read any of the subsequent books, but the first one was pretty all right. Have you seen the movie?
I did see the movie. Yeah.
Very different, but very different, but very the same. I don't know how to really thread that needle, but yeah. If you like the movie, you'll like the book.
I'm looking forward to it. And listen, if it's anywhere near as good as Dungeon Crawler Carl, I will read all 4 of them in about a week as well, because they are $3 right now on the Kindle store.
Nice.
So, yeah. It's less than, you get a whole ass book for less than a single issue of a comic. What a world!
Yeah, what a world! I've been conquering worlds in the downtime again. I just have to mention that I've been playing Space Marine 2 again. They dropped a new class. The Tech Marine is now available for play, so I've been leveling up a Tech Marine, and yeah, I was just thinking about it. It's like I never wanted to be into Warhammer at all, and over time, just sheer proximity, like, it's in the air. So it's like you eat one carrot, you're fine, but if you eat nothing but carrots, you turn orange. People have been slipping carrots into my food for 10 years, and now I guess I'm a Warhammer fan. I'm never gonna play actual Warhammer, but I really love the Tech Marine. I love purging Xenos for the Emperor. This is, I don't know what to say. I'm a broken man, Hambo.
They got you. They got you. And listen, it happens to the best of everyone. You're like, oh, I'll probably never get around to doing that, and then suddenly you're like, I'm doing this.
Yeah. I've complained a lot about, like, lately about, like, oh, I don't want to collect stuff anymore. I got too much junk. And what did I do? I went out and I found a copy of the replacement inserts for Lite-Brite, Lite-Brite.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, the D&D ones. I got the D&D ones from 1983 because, yeah, I'm a sucker. What can I say? Like, as much as I'm like, oh no, I'm not a sucker. It's just like, yeah, no, I'm a sucker. I'm just as bad as everybody else in this stupid collecting hobby.
Listen, that they know how to get you, and they do often get you. And listen, we turnabout's fair play, man. Like, we constantly get people to buy stuff because we're like, oh my god, check this out. And people are like, oh, you son of a bitch, you got me again.
Yeah.
But we get got just as much as you do.
I can't remember who I said it to, but I in reference to the Lite-Brite papers, which not expensive, but more than I really want to admit, considering I don't even have a Lite-Brite. But I said that the bullet that will kill me was forged in 1983.
It really was.
It really was.
Oh my god, that's how they get us, man. They get us every friggin' time.
Yeah.
So finally, Hambo's crowdfunding corner before we go home on this. Dungeon Damsel, Buddy Daniels, who previously put out Unnatural Selections, which is compatible with Shadow Dark, just dropped a new campaign on Backer Kit, which just dominated the very first few hours. But Jaskara, a brutal fantasy world setting for Shadow Dark RPG. It is a full sandbox campaign for Shadow Dark, built around rival factions, forbidden magic, and a world that keeps unraveling with or without the heroes. It's a realm in decline. The sun is obscured by an endless gloom, and the Shadow Dark no longer waits for nightfall. So that's a pretty fun concept. Lots of great story here. Lots of great artwork. They got like a murderous row of artists on this thing. There's so many different tiers and so many different combos and things you can get with it. But if you're a fan of Shadow Dark, Buddy Daniel and Zane, who are Dungeon Daniel Publishing, have like a pedigree for years in different kinds of games and video games and stuff like that. So they're actually using the same printer as like the regular Shadow Dark. So if you are someone who is concerned with how the book will look on your shelf, it's going to look like a seamless addition to your Shadow Dark collection.
Nice.
Because, we care about that kind of stuff. We get like all itchy when we see like trade dress that doesn't line up and shit. I mean, so this is a third-party publication compatible for design for use with Shadow Dark RPG, Jaskara, brutal fantasy world setting for Shadow Dark is on Backer now for another 20 or so days by the time this episode drops. So check that out. So this is another amazing episode of the Vintage RPG Podcast. Too, where can people find you on the internets?
They can find me at vintagerpg.com. I am actually going to publish shortly after hanging up on this recording session a little thing, essay weirdness, but it will have a link to the Puzzles and Games article, Fantasy Wargaming, that I mentioned earlier. In case you miss it in the show notes, you can go see it on the website. It's there's like a PDF of it floating around.
Very cool. You can find me across the internet at John McGuire RPG on the Instagram and on the Blue Sky. If you want to pick up any of the cool things that we're putting out over at hamandeggpublishing.com, you can get it at hamandeggpublishing.com. It connects right to our Etsy. We just put out a second edition of Crowdfund Your Fucking Life. It's been updated. It's been expanded. There are some new sections to it. Some of the old ones got streamlined, make a little more sense now because I wasn't just doing it as a knee-jerk reaction to the horrors of the world outside. And there's some artwork in there, some more links and cool things to check out. Crowdfund Your Fucking Life second edition is out right now on hamandeggpublishing.com. If you like the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Your reviews really do help other listeners to find us. And if you really like the show, why not become a patron? Patreon.com/vintagerpg. We got a behind the scenes look at some stuff that we're working on. We got a lot of other cool stuff happening as well. At the dollar tier, the dollar paid tier, for as little as $1 a month, you can get early release episodes, sometimes between like Friday and Sunday, depending on when we record them during the week. We've also got a killer Discord community that is truly an oasis from the world, with people who like talking about the same stuff you like talking about, that we'd love for you to be a part of. Patreon.com/vintagerpg. So for Stu Horvath, I'm John Hambone McGuire. May the dice always roll in your favor. Thanks for listening. The Vintage RPG Podcast is a ham-fisted production. Music by Dead Go West. Art by Schaefer Brown. Edited by R. Alex Murray. Check us out at vintagerpg.com.